Welcome to the Tegan and Sara Show! Yeah!
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Tegan.
And today we're going to talk about Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers book, and we're going to specifically talk about Chapter 5, which is about the lessons of Joe Flom.
It talks about how being Jewish helped him and other Jewish lawyers rise to the top. They had passion, opportunity, practical intelligence, and demographic luck. Best analysis of how adversity turned into opportunity for Jewish lawyers has been done by legal scholar Eli Wald. Wald is careful to make the point, however, that Flom and his Inc. were merely luckies winning the lottery. They were given opportunity and they seized it. As Wald says, Jewish lawyers were lucky and they helped themselves. That's the best way to put it.
The word luck fails to capture the work, imagination, and opportunities that they took hold of. On page 128, Gladwell explains, for 20 years he perfected his craft at Skadden Arps. Then the world changed and he was ready. He didn't triumph over adversity. Instead, what started out as adversity ended up being an opportunity.
Wow! That connects to Bill Joy and Bill Gates. Both of them toiled away with something that didn't have any hope of worldly success. But then, by the time they had their 10,000 hours in, the computer revelation happened and they became successful, just like the lawyers. Okay, the next quote/theme we have is about Friedman. He is the struggling child of Jewish immigrants. Well, he was. He learned about hard work and taking responsibility for himself to put him through school. But a more important lesson that he learned is that he happened to come along at a time in America when you were willing to work hard, you could make responsibility for yourself, and you could put yourself through school. This connects to the other parts of the chapter by saying that they took hold of their opportunities and didn't just let their disadvantages keep them back.
The most important quotes in Chapter 5.
Do you think that success is achieved based on an individual or instinct?
One quote that we can talk about is on page 120 and talks about how disadvantages can turn into advantages. We tell rags to riches stories because we find something captivating in the idea of a lone hero battling overwhelming odds. But the true story of Joe Flom's life turns out to be much more intriguing than the mythological version, because all the things in his life that seemed to have been disadvantages, that he was a poor child of garment workers, that he was Jewish at a time when Jews were heavily discriminated against, that he grew up in the Depression, turned out unexpectedly to have been advantages. Joe Flom is an outlier. So basically he was able to retain practical intelligence and his savvy from his Jewish immigrant parents. Some of the vocabulary that can be found in this chapter are immigrate, which means to move permanently to a country, which this relates because obviously his parents immigrated to the United States from wherever he came from.
Europe?
From Europe. Okay. Also another one is Judaism, because that was the religion his family had practiced, and being Jewish back then was not necessarily helpful at all, and they were heavily discriminated against, and it was very hard for them. For Joe Flom, having practical intelligence wasn't innate, which means he was not born with it. He retained all of his practical intelligence, like I said before, from his parents, and that was a skill he had developed over time.
Borgenet was a Jewish immigrant, another Jewish immigrant, who started making clothes with his wife. He was diligent because he had constant effort. He worked 18-hour-long days. A quote you can find on page 148 is, what Borgenet was getting in his 18-hour day was a lesson in the modern economy. He was learning market research, he was learning manufacturing, he was learning how to negotiate with imperious Yankees, he was learning how to plug himself into new fashion trends. The Irish and Italian immigrants who came to New York in the same time period didn't have that advantage. They didn't have that skill specific to the urban economy. The Irish and Italian ancestors didn't pass down the legacy, which is anything handed down from the past. They went into labor jobs like their parents, but the Jews went into jobs that helped them in the modern economy. So it shows how the Irish and Italians would go into labor jobs, and the Jewish people would go into jobs, not labor jobs, that helped in the modern economy.
Another quote can be found on page 155. It states that success is not a random act. It arises out of a predictable and powerful set of circumstances and opportunities. And at this point, after examining the lives of Bill Joy and Bill Gates, pro hockey players and geniuses, and Joe Flom, the Jane Clows, and the Borganites, it shouldn't be hard to figure out where the perfect lawyer comes from. This quote explains how opportunity, dedication, and passion are key components to get successful. And it is a theme that is continuously shown throughout the book.
If you work hard enough and assert yourself and use your mind and imagination, you can shape the world around your desires. Page 151.
Chasing Mavericks relates to this chapter because Jay has dedication, passion, and the perfect opportunity. After seeing what he considers his father, Frosty, surf the giant 30-foot waves that are called Mavericks, he wants to surf them himself. He took advantage of every opportunity that came his way and was able to prove himself out on the waves and prove everyone wrong.
School connects to this chapter because you can be more successful depending on what school you go to. If you go to a school like AT where you have opportunities to be in many sports, clubs, and classes, it will be easier for you to achieve success than if you go to a poor school. This relates to the theme of demographic location and being lucky to live in such a place. The opportunity theme in this chapter connects to the movie The Blind Side. It connects because of a couple reasons. The Blind Side is a true story about Michael Orr. In the movie, it shows how Michael lived in the projects and was poor. He was once walking home, if you would call his bad neighborhood home, and Mrs. Toohey picked him up out of the goodness of her heart and brought him to her home. He stays there for a while, and Mrs. Toohey realizes his mother isn't in his life at all. He becomes part of the family, and they adopt him. Since he is with them, he has the opportunity to go to a private school that can really help him. He gets to show his skills on the football team. Because of his opportunity, he goes to college and is now in the NFL. At first, a disadvantage of being poor was going to hold him back. But if he wasn't poor, Mrs. Toohey would never have picked him up and taken him in. Dang, that's success!
Luol Deng was another success story.
Deng was born in what is now South Sudan. When he was young, his father moved the family to Egypt to escape the civil war in Sudan. In Egypt, they met a former NBA player who taught Luol Deng's brother and himself how to play basketball.
He moved to Britain and played basketball there. When he was 14, he moved to the United States and New Jersey. During his senior year, he was the second most promising senior after LeBron James.
Boo!
Now, Luol Deng has played in the NBA for the Chicago Bulls since 2004.
The theme that connects this is opportunity, because if Luol Deng's father didn't have the chance to get them out of the Sudan, he would have never been in the NBA.
Done.
Boom.
Bill Joy about how they had having.
I wasn't even looking at you until now.
Okay. Okay. Where it comes from. This explains what occurs throughout.
Why? Why? Welcome to the Tegan. No.
On page 120, and it talks about how disadvantages can eventually become into advantages.
Oh my God!
We tell rags to riches stories because we find something captivating in the idea of, why do I keep doing this?
How about I read it?
No!
Then read it!
Yeah, okay.
Alright. Alright.
Will you stop saying alright?
No!
Okay, go.
Alright. Luol Deng is another success story. Story. Kumbaya, my lord. Kumbaya. Okay.
Let's go.
Luol Bang is another success story. Would you call yourself? Go, go, go!
I'm going!
Start over.
No. Really?
No. Yes.